basically everybody knew in junior high and high school how much I loved Judy Garland. And I really hadn't moved beyond musicals at that time. I didn't have a VCR, didn't have, you know, it's like I had really limited resources to be able to watch them because we didn't have cable and et cetera, et cetera. And this was in the 80s, so, or way early 80s. And so my senior year of high school, my dad was going through a lot of health problems, and so I, my senior year high school, my senior high school English teacher said, she said, I have, it was a Friday, and she brought me, she said, I have a special homework assignment for you. And I was like, okay. And she handed me a VHS tape, and it handwritten on us on the side was Bringing Up Baby. And she goes, I want you to watch this, and then I want you to come back, you know, on Monday and tell me what you think. And I was like, okay. I didn't know what it was or anything. I popped it in and saw Cary Grant's name and Katharine Hepburn's name, and I was like, oh, okay. And I watched it and I laughed my butt off. I rewound that tape. I watched it 3 times that weekend and just, oh my gosh, just loved it. And it just lifted me, lifted my spirits and everything. And when I brought it back to her, I was quoting lines and stuff, and she was like, yep, you got it. And so I've always been so grateful to Mrs. Krukerberg for noticing, because you know everybody notices my laugh, and for noticing that I hadn't laughed and finding a remedy for it. And you know, is really what helped sort of catapult me into discovering other films besides Judy Garland films. So that's why I picked it. That's why
Well,
I picked
it's a really great story. And let me just like pause for a moment because um, we're in this really crazy moment. And certainly when thinking of what to program, one might think of programming something a little more, so we say, socially relevant. But there are times when you need to be able to laugh. And I think that taking a pause from talking about the issues, and there's plenty of time to talk about the issues, and you know, we'll have films next week and the week after, and that might be sort of dealing with that. But I do think that like enjoying a comedy in this time is really has incredibly great value. So and your story really drives that point home in a very powerful way. So
Thanks,
thank
Bart.
you. Thank you for sharing that. So one of the questions I want to ask you is, when watching this week, and I assumed you watched it this week again.
I watched it 5 times today.
Okay.
Anyway.
So what did you see today that is different than when you saw it when you were much younger? What are how did it speak to you in a very different way?
Oh my gosh. I know this film so well, frontwards and backwards, that it feels like it's a part of me. And yet, you know, when I'm watching it, I'm picking up on things like, you know, Cary Grant when he's wearing his glasses and when he's not wearing his glasses.
Hmm.
And I learned this week that that you know, he wasn't really sure how to play this role, and that Howard Hawks suggested that he play this role like Harold Lloyd, and he was like, ah, got it. So Harold Lloyd's was what he called it, his glasses character.
Right.
So he added the glasses, and that's that was that was kind of one of the big things I noticed. But you know, there's so it's such high pace volume of chatter between the two of them. And you know, Katharine Hepburn is just, she is just all over the place, and it just, and everything she says to me makes perfect sense. When she gets things wrong, it makes perfect sense how she went there. So I guess I kind of think like that too.
Yeah, so obviously the genre, the screwball comedy, it really sort of depends on kind of very quick-paced dialogue, and I would say when you start thinking about what makes this film good, obviously the casting is like really incredible, and these were not obvious choices in the beginning, but when you think back on this film, could you think of this with two other actors? I mean, there's just no
Well,
way.
I heard that Carol Lombard, they were considering her, and how different this film would have been if it had been Carol Lombard. I'm like, no, need to be Katharine Hepburn.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, the character comes from a place of privilege and sort of moves, walks, holds herself in a certain kind of way that, she totally gets, and has a certain kind of attitude and rhythm, that I think is really kind of critical and important to the film. And then, in a sense, Cary Grant is like just playing a straight man all the way through. It's like
Yeah.
everything just happens to him, and
Yeah.
he just like deals with it, and occasionally gets upset, and is trying to kind of talk his way through this. From my perspective as a film person, I sort of look about the cinematic language of this, and like a lot of screwball comedies, and a lot of comedy in general, there's not a whole lot of editing. There are scenes that just go on and on and on without cutting. And when you one of the ways that people who write about film and talk about film talk about them is there's a difference between um, filmmakers that work within the frame and the filmmakers who work from shot to shot. So it's like montage versus mise en scène. And so this film is all about the mise en scène. There's very few times when you have a scene where it's constructed shot by shot by shot by shot. There are a couple, and there are a couple where there's a bunch of people going on, and every once in a while, there's one. I particularly remember when Cary Grant is like sitting on the stairs, and at one point, like half the scene is going on, and you're just on him, which is just really unusual because usually you're mostly on the person talking. But I just found, the language of this is typical for the genre. So when you have material that's like this, the casting is really critical, and the chemistry between the two of them is really critical, because that's what kind of drives everything and makes it go. But the other thing that, of course, you have to say about this film is the script, right?
Yes.
Right? How many of those lines? Okay, I want everybody, one at a time, tell me your favorite line of the film. And Kelly, you get 3 since you're the guest host.
Okay. Well, my first one is, "Oh, you've torn your coat." When obviously she's the one that tore his coat.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that's 1. 2.
Oh, I'll be with you in a minute, Mr. Peabody. That's my other one. It just cracks me up. I don't know why.
All right, who else has a favorite line?
We have one.
All right, MB, I saw you first.
Yeah, Kathy has one she said to me my entire life since I've known her, and this is it.
Oh, David, your sock's on fire.
Oh, David, your sock's on fire. Okay, now wait a minute. MB, what happens when she says that?
It just makes me laugh.
Anything that happens that.
Oh, I just wondered that maybe you like burned up somebody's socks or something.
No,
just
No.
when you're feeling
yeah.
funny.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, and MB, do you have a favorite line?
Well, I knew that line was in the show, so that's the only one I kept waiting for the entire time.
Okay.
But I did want to point something out. I know we weren't going to be serious tonight, but one line that jumped out at me last night when I was watching it, I'm sure I didn't even notice it the first time or two I saw this,
The
was
gay
when
line?
David's character, says about, you're talking about somebody, a man that did something to Katharine Hepburn, and the line he said was, which is not a favorite line, but it It's something we should talk about. He says, oh, that's white of him. That was white of him. And to me, it's like that was a thing that people said all the time, and it was of the day, but it just shows, to me, it hit a chord last night, just and watching it, that, there's always been this stuff going on that, Anyway, that's all.
So there's that line and the gay line. What did you all think of that? That is, as far as I've heard, that's the first time that gay has been used in that way in a motion picture, and supposedly that was ad-libbed.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. And that Howard Hawks thought it was so funny the way that May Robson was like,
yeah. Well, who better?
She was like, I'll have to keep that.
All right, so Melanie, you have a favorite line.
Well, I don't know the movie too well. I was scratching my head, and that line came to me, and I was going to ask for those who've studied the film if that, what the connotation was, if that could be verified, or if it's just kind of one of those things, or like you could just kind of take it however you want to take it.
Well, I have read both ways. I've read that that was just a matter of being happy, or that, it's one of those things where it was an ad-lib line, so it's not like it was thought of in advance. So I don't know what was in his head. I can't vouch for that. Gordon, do you have an opinion on this?
Yeah, from what I've studied on it, they could trace the use of gay to mean homosexual back to about the 20s. So it wasn't a brand new word even then. Mm-hmm. And I've always wondered, even, as we know, in the 30s, there were rumors about Cary Grant being gay or bisexual. And I always wondered if he was kind of winking at the audience when he said that.
Oh, yeah. When I saw it.
Playing, and those rumors were about Katharine Hepburn, too, at the same time. We might as well say that also. Yeah. But I think he was taking an occasion to both have it mean just happy, but also a big wink at the audience who, might be thinking that. So. And
he was clearly having fun at that moment. I mean, that was a very physical as well, moment in that. So Kelly, anything in the story that resonates with you that you remember? I mean, it's like when you think back to when you saw it, what are the things that like connected with you during that time when you needed to hear that? Oh, and Belinda, who is not Belinda, but is Belinda's iPad, has a hand up. Did you want to say something? Belinda, not Belinda?
Sure. I was trying to take it down because I'm a little behind, but I wanted to mention when David said, in moments of quiet, I'm rather drawn to you. There haven't been any quiet moments. Yes. And that was shortly after she threw the rock at Mr. Peabody, and everything was chaotic, but that seemed to be a real recognition moment on his part that he liked her. And but he couldn't think of any time. Anyway, a great movie.
That's a great line. Yeah, for me, I love the repetition. I'll be with you in a minute, Mr. Peabody. The intercostal clavicle. Repetition of those phrases just cracked me up, and I really noticed that, because I was like, why doesn't she know that he is with, somebody that she knows so well? And I noticed today that, she can't see him. She doesn't, Mr. Peabody, I mean, and he doesn't use that I'll be with you in a minute, Mr. Peabody, when he's with her until he's telling her after, she's torn his coat and he's ripped her skirt, the back part of her skirt off, which is another interesting point because this is after the code, and they didn't want that. They were very concerned about, ripping her dress, especially on her butt, and showing her panties, after the code had already taken effect, like 4 years earlier. But anyway, that just really sang with me. It just sang to my soul. And, like I said, when I was watching it when I was a senior in high school, I I would rewind it just to make sure that I heard some of the lines correctly, because some of it's going so fast. And I just, I don't know, it's still, I can put myself back in being 17 in high school, watching it today, and feeling those same feelings of just jubilation.
I see that Roseanne has her hand up, her virtual hand. Do you have something to say?
I do. My favorite line.
Yes.
After Horace and Aunt Elizabeth and the two were running around during the dinner table, and they kept getting up and running after the dog.
Yeah.
And running after the dog and sitting down, running after the dog. And they were running in circles forever, it seemed. The timing of it was amazing. And then they disappeared to go look for the leopard and the dog, or the bone. And Aunt Elizabeth said, she stood up and said something about let's go out to de-stress, or something like that. She didn't use the word de-stress. And Horace stood up and said, "Yes, shall we go for a run?"
Well,
did anybody else notice that? It just,
yeah.
I thought that was one of the funniest, because they've been running nonstop. So.
Well, I think,
he sent, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I just think that like all of the minor characters are got such great character actors, as in a lot of screwball comedies. You have the constable. I mean, how great was he? I mean, all of the character actors, and they're all just really fantastic, and they play to such the way they play off them is just really great.
And I've got a story about the constable. He was in the Ziegfeld Follies in like the 19-teens and 20s, and he did vaudeville and everything. And apparently, that role for the constable was much smaller. And Katharine Hepburn wasn't getting. This was her first comedian role. Everything else she had done had been very serious and dramatic. Maybe moments of comedy, but she was always kind of just a straight person. And so she was trying to be funny. And Howard Hawks was like, no, just say be the character and be who it is. And so it was Walter Catlett,
Mm-hmm.
Who played the constable, who Howard Hawks said, will you help her, coach her? And he said, no. He said, I don't want to just walk up to her and say, okay, let me show you what you're doing wrong. And so Howard Hawks went to Katharine and said, will you ask him to help you out, because he's been doing comedy on vaudeville stage and everything for years. And so she did. And then she asked for his role to be increased. And, and I don't know if it's the part where she's parked the car in front of the fire plug, or if it's the later part in the jail. But I just thought that was very cool. I thought that was really, really cool of her.
Yeah, I mean, and that she was nervous about being funny, and she did so well. But clearly, people need coaching. And if you think like the last bit of the film that takes place in the jail and that whole area, I mean, that's really, he kind of takes over the film. A lot of the comedy really comes from his performance. And whereas like the two of them are at the center of everything back then, there's a ton of people, like everybody, all the characters are at the jail, like they're there, including the animals. Okay, so I have a treat for us if you guys want to see it. We're not going to watch this whole thing, but for those of you who remember, I said that one of the things to look for when watching this film are the special effects. And Linwood Dunn, who is a very famous special effects person, he did the special effects in Citizen Kane, among many other things. And there are 2 mistakes in Citizen Kane in the special effects. And if you want someday, I'll tell you that story. But maybe we should watch Citizen Kane once too.
Ah.
This is, you know, when you're a graduate student, you get into all these geeky things. But anyway, I found this video that showed where the shots where the special effects were done. So it's on Vimeo. So I need to do the share screen here, and okay, hit the screen share. And I want to get to, see if I can find it. I'll just say Google Chrome. And
Can I say something while you're setting that up?
yes.
Do you all remember in the Steve Martin version of Father of the Bride where Kimberly Williams met her husband?
No.
No?
She met him in Rome when she was studying abroad at a midnight revival of Bringing Up Baby.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I've been hanging out in the wrong movie theaters.
All right.
That's all.
Can you all see this now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me just run this a little bit. I don't know about you, but I would not want to do that shot.
I know.
David, it's lucky I met you yesterday because you're the only zoologist I know. Well, of course I know what a zoologist is. Yeah, no, not you, David. Oh, baby, get back into that bathroom and stay there.
Oh, where is that?
Right in there.
I don't believe you, Susan.
But you have to believe me.
I mean, think of your unbridled imagination once more. Wait, talk about that.
Oh.
That'll teach you to go around saying things about me.
I'm going to get out of here. Oh, Susan, I don't like leopards.
Just think of him as being a house cat.
Well, I don't like.
Yeah, I don't think you want Cary Grant in there to get his foot.
Don't be silly.
No.
Make a leopard stand still. I never saw anything take such a liking to anyone in my life that would follow you anywhere. We shan't have any trouble taking you to Connecticut. My farm in West Bay, Connecticut.
Never would have thought there was a puppet. Now, this really shows you how special effects were done back then. So it's first element, then it's just the leopard,
Uh-huh.
and then you see her. And then all of these 3 things are combined in an optical printer.
Oh, wow.
Okay, now here comes the third. And then here's the finished shot. 1, 2, 3. So they're all pushed in together. Now, when you saw this, you all, I'm sure, noticed that that was not reality.
Right. But Bart, that is my friend Laurel's grandmother as the stand-in right there.
Oh, you're kidding.
She was supposed to be on tonight. I was hoping she would be to tell the
That's
story.
really funny. This is probably the only time
Yeah.
people have ever seen a leopard in their life. Okay, here's an unused scene here.
I love Charlie Ruggles. Oh my God.
There you can see the trainer.
Wow.
And then there's a lot of rear screen work. That was a very common way for rear screen projection.
So wait. Oh, okay.
No, I think it's further down this way. Oh, Susan, I'm absolutely certain the sounds came from down this way. Oh, what's that?
So if there's a straight line, it's pretty easy to make those cuts.
Yeah.
Don't you fool me. You're not afraid of me now, are you? Come, push, push, push.
Now, can anybody do the panther call?
You say you.
I mean, the jaguar.
Mine sounds like a loon.
Hey, if you can do a loon, you're pretty good.
I think you're a liar.
This is fascinating because I found an article about the baby, the leopard. Her name was Nessa or Nisa,
Yeah.
but they only talked about baby. They didn't talk about the other leopard that is obviously a very different leopard.
No, I think the same leopard played both. I think they changed it.
Really? Gosh, because it looks bigger.
You mean to say there's another? Our cat came from the circus. He just clawed a man. He's bad. Oh my goodness. It's the wrong leopard. Oh, poor darling Susan. She's in danger and she's helpless without me.
Okay.
Oh. Oh yeah. That did not seem like a puppet. Wow.
Oh, you haven't, Susan.
Uh-huh. But they left George in there with it. That's what I was concerned about.
That moving one was a little difficult.
Oh, fascinating.
And there's a moment when the leash didn't match, if you look really carefully. All right. There we go.
Wow.
Well, that was something completely different.
That was very cool.
Yeah.
Is there a chance they may have put makeup on the leopard's mouth when it was the nasty leopard?
I think that there's a chance that they probably, yeah. I think if you get one trained leopard, that's a good thing. And I think, and indeed, some of the shots were puppet shots. So I'm sure they did makeup. Okay, Katharine says, I saw this film as a teenager, and it was possibly the first time in my teenage mind that I realized my parents' and grandparents' generation were just as witty and risque as my own in the arts that is. And that really
That's
is
a great one, Katharine.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a great realization that many of us never get to in our lives. It's like when I was a kid, I thought my parents just were stupid and couldn't, had no sense of, taste in anything. And I don't know about you, but my parents didn't really watch movies very much. My father just never saw why would you go and do that?
Right.
I mean, I remember one time we were at a restaurant and there was one of those jukebox things at your table, and I wanted to play a song, And my father said, well, why would you want to do that? It'll be over. It's like, it just didn't resonate in his brain that an experience was worth paying for. Like, it just, that was my father. God bless him. He died many years ago. Okay, so Ruth says, this was my gateway into Cary Grant. Yeah, and a good one too. I mean, Cary Grant's characters aren't always like this, but I think, you know, played it, you know, is really good. All right, so let's talk about Cary Grant's role in this, his character. You know, we're in a place right now where there's a lot of, shall we say, anti-intellectualism, like people don't respect smart people, and his character is a smart person, yet, and it's also, it's like he is not upper class, but interacts with it. I mean, there's a lot of class comedy. A lot of that comes in, you know, making fun of people who dress up and the sort of norms that they connect to. And one wonders if they were to get married after having destroyed the dinosaur, like what kind of life would they have together? You know, it's like, would it be, which universe would they live in? And could Cary Grant's character continue to live a life at that base? You know, it's like, for a certain time, it's fun to like have adventures. But if that's your everyday existence, is that the life you want to live?
I could. Oh,
Go on, Kelly. That was for you.
well, I see a lot of parallels between me and Mark.
Yeah.
And Susan and David and Mark. He's off screen and he's on another screen, but I mean, hasn't your life been one big? Okay,
well,
he's not talking.
Kelly, you go on adventures, but you don't go on adventures where you ruin other people's lives or, you know, try and do crazy things.
Oh, that's true. That's
Becca or Becky, what would you like to say?
true. He's the screen. Oh, turn your microphone on, Rebecca.
You know, really, you see these characters, David and Susan, in many forms in television and film.
Yeah.
But you guys just made me think that they're Rachel and Ross as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's another form of David and Susan, as well as What's Up Doc, the two characters in What's Up Doc. It's an homage to Bringing Up Baby, and Peter Bogdanovich said so when, you know, he set out to make that film. Well, let's do something like a screwball comedy with Barbra Streisand, and like What's Up Doc. I mean, like Bringing Up Baby. And so I think we see these characters coming up again and again in our culture in many forms. So,
well, I think in a sense, like making fun of high class people is like, that's always around, and making fun of people who say work in museums, like the poor woman that he was supposed to marry, she doesn't get a good scene. I mean, she just has no redeeming qualities at all. What are we going to do when we're married? No. So what are we getting married for? Like we just figured that out the day before. I mean, that's kind of.
It was so funny when the Mae Robson character says, "We don't need any more lunatics in our family." And I mean, obviously, what would a middle class person be called if they ordered a leopard from Brazil, if not a lunatic? And I mean, they were already a bunch of lunatics, but she doesn't want any more lunatics in her family.
And then there was like,
I'd like to think.
Yeah, go on.
I'd like to think that.
That's a balloon ball came in.
I'd like to think that once they got married, you know, she would have calmed down a little bit because she's finally got him. I kind of felt like a lot of her antics was because she just couldn't believe, you know, she's like, I gotta have him no matter what, I gotta have him. And in some ways, because he was just so uptight and bookish, kind of, you know, very nerdish at the time, he wanted to break out a little bit though. And so when his original fiance was like, oh no, we're just going to go to City Hall, get married, and come right back to work. Our work is our life. And he was like, well, no. But he couldn't, you know, because she was going to override him anyway. So I'd like to think, because I like to do this sometimes, like imagine what life would have been like, you know, if the movie had a sequel and we could then see what happened, you know, kind of like, you know, Father of the Bride.
What would happen
in
in the third series on Netflix, the third Netflix series? You know, it's like I was watching Dear White People, and they in the third series, third season, there are like 4 jokes about that. Sounds like something that would be in a third season of a Netflix show, and I just never seen that like done in a show before. But yes, you know, you wonder what their lives would be like and their sense of, you know, the class. But indeed, a lot of these are, shall we say, tropes that connect to the screwball comedy. And the screwball comedy was like a really big deal during that time. A lot of it, of course, in reaction to, you know, the restrictions that you could have and what people could say. So having double entendres was the only way to sort of get that material in there. And it just sort of called for a different kind of filmmaking. And the filmmakers, the directors who were like really good at that, could work with actors and get these kind of performances and kind of move in those kind of ways. You know, I wonder, like, would a script like this work today? How would this script be different? How would it play differently? How would it be directed differently today? Anyone? Gordon.
Well,
You know, I'm a teacher. This is what I do in class.
Yeah, so am I. I would like to see somebody try, but I suspect they would go for the hard PG-13 rating and probably have an obligatory F-bomb or 2 in there, and lose some of the. I haven't seen anything that qualified as sophisticated comedy in quite a while.
Yeah.
And I would like to see
agree with
somebody
that.
try it again.
You know, I have a feeling that the place for that would actually be on episodic television more than it would be in cinema, because, you know, and in a sense, 3-camera live television works more in that kind of visual language than cinema does. I mean, it just sort of would be, and it's all about the writing and performance. So probably there is something we just have not seen it. Maybe.
Well, how about the Blondie and Dagwood series? If you remember that Blondie and Dagwood, and, you know, she was always, you know, there was always a boom boom at the end, and, you know, a lot of slapstick and kind of thing. So it's like I was trying to envision, like, you know, what you know, 2 stars today could do that. And it's kind of funny because I think Brad Pitt would be kind of fun doing that.
Yeah.
He could be goofy. He doesn't mind being goofy and really good looking.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So there's that. And so Cary Grant, and, you know, again, falling along with Cary Grant. But I can't think of a female character that could hold a candle to Katharine in that vein.
I mean, but the thing is that I think there are many characters who could play a screwball comedy and have that kind of that witty, fast repartee. But this required, I think, a certain kind of character that I think is a hard thing to reproduce. Somebody asked, what was the first screwball comedy? And it happened one night, which, of course, I think that probably is indeed, yeah. And
I think it was the first one where it was labeled that. There may have been some others though before that.
Uh-huh.
But I think that was the first one that was sort of labeled that.
And what other screwball comedies do you like? What other screwball comedy directors do you like other than Hawks, who did this?
I read books about screwball comedy a long time ago in preparation for one of many projects that never came to fruition. And I always felt that Bombshell, which preceded It Happened One Night by 1 year, that Jean Harlow movie,
Yeah.
was a screwball comedy, but it's not usually classified as such. But I like all the Carol Lombard screwball comedies. I mean, that's kind of who you think of when you think of screwball comedy.
Mm-hmm. And you know, the thing is that screwball comedy it's like, you know, it's sort of very specific thing, but a very loosely specific thing. So that's why, like, this is the first one. You know, it's kind of like one could make an argument both ways.
Right.
So it's somewhat hard. And Kimberly, somebody you touched my heart. My favorite director of all of these is Preston Sturges. Now,
Oh yeah.
how many of you have seen more than one Preston Sturges film?
Oh yeah, I have.
Okay.
I have.
Yes.
Now, okay. So,
At least
in,
6 or 7.
what's that, 6 or 7?
Like,
Yeah.
As many as I can get my hands on.
I
Yeah.
was.
Right.
how many did he do? How many did he do?
He didn't do a whole lot. And there is a documentary about Preston Sturges, and we really should do
Ooh.
a Preston Sturges film as part of this series. When I was in
Yes.
graduate school, I had never seen a Preston Sturges film. I didn't know who he was. And Andrew Saris was our teacher, and he said, you have to know about Preston Sturges. And I forgot which film we saw, and it would just like blew my mind. It was just like incredible. And I think that, you know, like, he was born for that moment. That's
Yeah. For
of-
that particular moment, that was for sure.
Yeah, Ruth, you had something to say, or you just said?
When I first started classic movies, I was like 13 or so, and you know that was, you know, doing like the late show days back in the 80s. So it wasn't until AMC that I started to really, you know, get a good education about classic movies. And I totally remember the first time seeing Sullivan's Travels and listening to Bob Dorian's intro to it. And it was like, oh yes, this is just gonna, yeah. And I could not get enough of that movie. And to this day, it's one I could see over and over and over again. I love that movie so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's so great.
Hey, Bart.
Yeah. Mark wanted to say something, and Mark.
I don't know if you remember my young cousin whom you talked to a couple years ago or last year.
What did I say to him?
Nothing. I've been trying. The one who's studying film right now.
Oh, okay.
We were trying to get him to go to UTA.
Yeah, we were hoping to go to UTA or SMU so he'd be local.
Oh.
But he's in Houston now. Yeah, I'm trying to get him to watch Sullivan's Travels because I really think he would get into it, being a smart filmmaker.
It's a great, there's so much to it. I think I see something new almost every time, you know?
Yes.
Or you know, as I see it, sometimes it you know, depends on the frame of mind you're in when you're watching, you know, a film again, and that you know, can pull something else from it. So that's one I always recommend to people, you know, as an entry into classic film, without a doubt.
Gordon says the Coen brothers have tried to do some kind of screwball comedy, and I think that is indeed true. And you know, they are scholars of cinema. They know the history. You know, just like Bogdanovich knows the history, so he can pull those things off. You know, back to Preston Sturges and Sullivan's Travels, which is one of my all-time. It's probably one of my top 10 films in general. And because it is at its heart, I love films about film. That's one of my weaknesses. But it's not just that it's a film about film. The scene when the prisoners are watching the Mickey Mouse cartoon is like, it's a profound like vision of like why films have value. And it is the statement about like why entertaining movies have a transformative role in people's lives. And you can explain that. You can write papers about that. But that single scene when he's sitting there at the like lowest part of his life, not understanding why making silly movies had any value to him. And he's seeing these hardened people watching the Mickey Mouse cartoon and laughing their ass off and being transformed. It is such like a moving moment. And indeed, just to sort of take where we very started this moment, this evening, you know, with everything that's going on, why are we showing a screwball comedy? And I think that, you know, the Preston Sturges moment gives us the sense that there's a role that these films can play. We don't have to go out and have a trailer following us as we make the film about poor people in the world. Which would be, it would be funny to do a remake. What would a remake of Sullivan's Travel look like?
Man, that could be like, you know, the next Bad World, because that could be a good ensemble. That could be a really good ensemble.
Sure.
We've got some really good people that, you know, some good actors out there.
Yeah.
And that one could be fun.
Yeah, I mean, just think of what the prison scenes would be. I mean, there's so many twists and turns in that, and you know, Hollywood people. I mean, it just makes fun of like, so much.
The other twist for me is I want to buy an RV. I'm looking to do that. I'm like into the tiny house thing, or you know, so I'm gonna buy one, and that scene of them bouncing all around. I pull myself at the thought of that. Oh my God, that's not gonna be me taking some curve one day.
So, what other scenes in this film really speak to any of you? It's like the things that you remember, you know, aside from the.
I can't give you anything but love, baby.
All right. So I have to ask a question about that. Explain to me how somebody can train a wild animal to react to a record like that. I mean, like as writing a script, like, does that like work for you? Does that really happen?
Why not? You know what? I've heard that as much if you can make yourself believe it as the actors, then on screen, then you can make the audience believe it. And I believe it.
Okay.
Because why not?
And I know from just sitting down playing the piano at my house, playing all different kinds of songs, classical, rock and roll, everything. There are certain songs that my dog loves, and he will come and sit on the piano bench next to me.
Okay.
Oh, you guys, Laurel. Hey, this is Laurel. We saw your grandmother in some footage that Bart had in the car. Laurel is the one whose grandmother
was the stand-in.
Is a stand-in.
I was watching I read the thread today.
So, Laurel, have you seen that footage?
I have not.
Okay, so I have it. It's on Vimeo, and let me see if I can find that.
I'll share it with you.
Yeah,
it's called Bringing Up Babies, Special Effects, Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant. I'll tell you what, I will put this link in the show notes to everyone.
But do the show notes go away when
yes.
we get off?
Yeah, but I actually record these, and so I have and it records both the show notes and in one file and the video in this. So if you want to send this to somebody, I've saved almost all of them. I missed one of them, but otherwise I saved them. But yeah, so if you want to just look in the chat section, you can click on that, and that will take you to it. And it's like 2/3 in, Karen. You'll see that match with the stand. Cool. Yes. And
so, Laurel, do you have any stories about that your grandmother may have told you?
She actually didn't tell me much about it, as I was in one of her rooms in her house, and she had all these pictures on the wall. And there was a picture of at the dressing table with the flowing gown in the very beginning when you first meet baby. And he's leaning against her, and she said, "That looks like Katharine Hepburn, but that's me." Okay.
Really?
Well, because baby is like all over her leg there.
Right, especially in that scene.
And that one shot, yeah. And it's just like a
Interestingly,
regular
I
pen.
did meet Katharine Hepburn again later in life. My father worked on a film called Ollie Ollie Oxenfree, which was a family movie put out not by Disney and therefore did not do very well. But it was about an eccentric older woman who falls in love with the idea of a hot air balloonist. And my father was the film editor on the movie, and I was on location one day, and they brought out her chair and sat under the only shady spot. And she looked down at my brother and I, and she said very contemptuously, "Who are you?" And we said, "The film editors." And she kind of looked down and said, "Children." It was like, okay, so she doesn't like wild animals, and she doesn't seem to be particularly fond of children either. But she wrote a beautiful letter to my father after the movie was finished. So, and interestingly, my grandmother passed away about 2 weeks after Katharine Hepburn did.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, thank you. That was
Wow.
Amazing.
Thanks, Laurel.
Great stories.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, she was a dancer. If y'all
Oh
can
my
see
God!
that.
Look at that.
She was pretty impressive. And then she was also in the film The Lodger.
The Lodger?
Ooh.
Yeah, this is her right here.
What not the
Hitchcock film.
The one with Linda
The
Darnell.
Hitchcock. Oh no.
oh
Merle
Linda
Oberon,
Oh,
George
yeah.
Sanders,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
Cedric Hardwick.
Right.
Wow.
Century Fox.
I know it.
Well, wait, I can't wait for you to see this footage, Laurel. It was kind of quick, but so
Cool.
Bart, that's interesting that first footage of baby rubbing against her leg, that's not Katharine Hepburn. I wonder if there was some special effects with that they didn't reveal.
Oh, the extras,
because
they're disposable.
well, I know, yeah.
I mean, but that's Hollywood's, that's why they have them there. But yeah,
I
I mean,
mean, and with animals, a little bit of liver goes a long way.
It seems to me that in the scene where they get baby out of the car, her head is down the whole time. Like, you hear her talking, but you don't see her face at all as they're moving baby from the car. So I'm fairly certain that that's her as well.
Yeah.
Roseanne, you have something to say. Yeah.
Yes. When the baby first came out into the dressing room to walk up and rub against her leg,
Yes.
there was a fraction of a second where baby took a step backwards. And that must have been where the split was. Because at the time I couldn't figure, I thought maybe it was just a bad cut in the editing.
But it's a continuous shot, so it wouldn't be so yeah, that probably was an effect issue.
And when they switched from Audrey Hepburn to the stand-up.
Right.
Yeah. So
Indeed.
that makes sense. You asked before how a movie like that might be made today. I don't think it can be. For one thing, now movies there are too many fast edits. To have those long shots with such incredible fast timing on the part of the actors, that's what amazed me about the movie, because the character of Susan was driving me crazy in the beginning, and I thought, oh no, what's so funny about this? She's nutty.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh my God, her acting is some of the funniest acting I've ever seen. It was like watching the Marx Brothers.
Yeah. All very true. I do think, there are films that are like one take films where and there are some filmmakers that work against the the fast cutting, which many people attribute to MTV. I actually attribute it to Sesame Street.
Ah, really?
Ah,
Wow.
yeah.
If it weren't for
Makes
Sesame
sense.
Street, we would not have MTV. And if it weren't for MTV, we would not have these fast-paced films.
Wow. Well, and the pacing, you know, we don't see pacing like that. That's the one thing that
There are films that are slower that can have that kind of pace to them. The point is, it's not a very traditional film, and the only way that a film like this could get made is if either a power director wanted to do it or a power actor like really wanted to do this as a passion project. I really do think it is possible to do, because anything that works sort of against genre can be sold. I mean, there's a way to market that. And I do think there would be a real kind of thirst for a really witty script with a lot of twists and turns, with some actors who could really kind of show their stuff. And I think that really we have incredible actors. Our actors now are trained better than actors were in the 30s. I mean, I just think there's a higher level of skill, but just also just from an acting point of view, just think about how many lines you have to know continuously. You know, and you have to have them down, like there's that, you know, rapid sense, whereas now, like, you don't have to go that much. I mean, you have a wide shot, but you can pick that up in close up. I mean, it's a very different kind of world we live in. But I do think somebody could want to do this, and I think it is kind of doable. But it would take somebody like this would not be like something the studio would put together. It would be like an artist-driven like project.
Do you think though that the public on a whole would be able to appreciate it?
Let me put it to you this way: did anybody, if you had pitched La La Land, did anybody would have liked a musical in Los Angeles? Like, I mean, like that does not fit into any marketing strategy or anything. And I do really believe that there's a place for something that evokes like classic cinema in a way, because there are enough people that it would touch, which is why La La Land was a reinterpretation of the musical, and people really loved it because of that, because it evoked what they loved about those early movies, yet it had its own spirit at the same time. So yes, I do think that's like doable.
And yeah, I didn't love it, but you know, being from Los Angeles and living here, it was cool to see my hometown showcased so lovely, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know, so that was kind of cool about it. But you know, it was okay for me.
I wouldn't say it's not Citizen Kane, but it still was a quality film. And Ruth, have you ever seen L.A. Plays Itself?
No.
Okay, it's a documentary called L.A. Plays Itself by Tom. God, what's that guy's name? I can't remember. But it's a film about all the ways in which LA has been portrayed in films.
Wow.
And it's really very beautifully done. I mean, it's very poetic. You'll love your city even more. It's just.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on.
While you're looking, Bart, I have a couple of tidbit things that I don't know why I have a fixation on figuring out how much when somebody says $1 million in 1938, what that would mean today. And I always make Mark guess. Do you have any idea? $1 million in 1938. 18 million dollars. And when he says, I think $150 for a pair of swans is too much.
Yes.
That today would be $2,700 for the swans.
It is too much.
A pair of swans. Yes, Raquel, it is Tom Anderson. LA Plays Itself. And LA Plays Itself is on Amazon Prime, so you can watch it for free.
I'm a Prime person, but yeah. Yay.
Well, Ruth, we know you're a Prime person. All right, guys. Yes, Gordon, you get the last word.
Just two quick comments. One of the interesting bits of trivia I read about this was that Christopher Reeve based his depiction of Clark Kent in the Superman movies he did on Cary Grant in Bring It Up Baby.
That makes sense. I can see that.
Okay.
And although, well, I got another
Makes
comment,
sense.
although related to the first one, which is kind of interesting because when he did Switching Channels, which is a remake of His Girl Friday, he had the Ralph Bellamy part and Burt Reynolds had the Grant part. But one thing I want to say, I am a humongous devotee of Howard Hawks. I think he should be mentioned up there along with Hitchcock and John Ford. He did overlapping dialogue long before Robert Altman and other people were doing it. He made a masterpiece in comedy, Western, science fiction, and I can't name too many other directors who did that. Just my pitch for Howard Hawks.
I have
And he
a
only got
question
one
about
Oscar
that. No, I like
his whole
Howard
career.
Hawks a lot too, but I was wondering maybe what Bart and Kelly had to say about this. Maybe Hawks's reputation was kind of hurt in the last couple of films that he did because he kept repeating himself.
Well, not every film for every director is great. Everybody has had some ones that are not so great. I don't know. Yeah, there's some Hitchcocks that are not so great. There's some Kubrick. Well, Barry Lyndon, I'm not very fond of. But I haven't rewatched it in a long time. I have to say, when it first came out, I was overly excited to see it, and I was not happy.
What movie's that?
Having to have a duel.
See it at the theater if you can. We watched it at Alamo a couple of years ago, and it was so much better watching it at Alamo than it was on.
Well,
What movie was that you were just talking?
Barry Lyndon.
Barry Lyndon.
And I did see it in the theater when it came out. I mean, it was like a big deal. A new Stanley Kubrick film, of course, it's like that's all everybody talks about. And they had those lenses that were built just for that lens, for that movie. I just didn't like his acting, and I didn't care for his character that much. But I know that if I and look at it again, I mean, it's just like when I first saw The Magnificent Ambersons, I didn't like it. And I went back and watched it again and love it. But my first screening, I didn't really like it. It just didn't speak to me. But again, Pauline Kael says you should only watch a movie once, which is
no.
No, you
not happening.
Bart,
no.
Hey, Bart, I have a similar story. When I was about maybe 13 years old, I went with my father to see this movie, and I was excited to see it because it had Mork in it.
And what?
Mork. Robin Williams, because that's all he was known for at the time.
Right.
And at the time, I thought it was a terrible movie.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad did too. And he told me that he was sitting the theater was crowded. It was packed. There wasn't an empty seat in the house. It was one of those small early 80s multiplex, little bitty room kind of things. And my dad said that I sat in this exact same theater 2 years ago and saw a really great movie, and there's hardly anybody in it. He was talking about Body Heat. And then I stumbled across it earlier this year. And I started watching. I'm like, wow, this is really profound.
Oh, yeah.
And what was it?
It was called, oh, shoot, I just forgot the name of it. It had Walter Matthau in it. And they played these two guys who joined a militia because they've lost their job and their business. The Survivors.
Oh, I've not seen that one.
Actually, I highly recommend it. It's like, of course, as a 13-year-old boy, I wouldn't understand, losing your job and having to do that. My father worked for the state, so he had no idea what that was like either. But I've been through 2 periods of long-term unemployment in my life, and it's like it really affected me differently as an adult than as a child.
Yeah.
Well, let me just close with this because we're a little over time. When we watch a movie, it's like there's the movie and our lives, and they intersect. Like, what is it that you're going through? What is it you're thinking about? what is it that you had an argument with a friend before you went in the theater? Or you just got like something good happened before the theater. It's like your mindset is very different. And when you re-watch a movie, you're experiencing it different because you're a different person at that moment, and different things in different ways. And it's like, it's just why I asked, like, Kelly, about, what you reacted to when you saw it differently, because we do as humans. It's one of the great things about revisiting films that mean a lot. It's like, we know what's coming, but how it responds to us, how we feel as we see different things, is totally unpredictable. I mean, it's just not known. Next week, we're showing a documentary that was a big hit on the festival circuit last year, called Hale County This Morning, This Evening. And Christian Vasquez will be our guest host. Christian is a young, very, very talented filmmaker who has been doing some things for the Dallas Morning News. And it's a beautiful, beautiful film. It's on Amazon, as is Los Angeles Plays Itself. So you should all watch that as well. You will definitely love that. Guys, thank you very much. It's been a wonderful evening. Kelly, thank you for being
Thank you, Bart. I appreciate you.
All right.
Thank you all for being here.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Kelly and Bart.
Thanks for being
you
here.
guys. Good to
Bye,
see you,
y'all.
Christy.
Thank you.
Bye, kids. Y'all take care.
Bye.
Bye, Gwen. Oh, Gwen's already gone. Okay, bye.
Bart, will you send me that link to that Vimeo?
Okay.
Link?
Hold on a second. I just hold it here. Okay, hold on. Yeah.
And I'll get that to people.
Okay.
I'm so excited she came on for a moment.
Isn't that it right there?
Yeah, but I can't copy and paste it anywhere.
You should be able to.
Well,
Here,
I'm
hold
on his
Hold
computer.
on. I'll fix it up here. Just let me get to.
I can't give you anything but love, baby. Bye-bye, babies.
Take care.
All right.
Y'all too. Bye.
I got some TV to watch.
Bye. Thank you, Ruth, for being here.
Bye. Good to see ya.
You too.
Control V. Email.
And am I out?
Thanks again, Bart.
Oh, my pleasure. It was good. All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. I gotta quit this out. I will get that link to you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Very good. All right.
Bye. Bye, Roseanne. Bye, Kimberly.
Bye, Kelly.
Bye.
All right. I'm gonna get this here and go to here and stay there and get that, and then do this and then do that and go to Kelly and do that. Okay, got it. So I can do this, I can do this and that.